Welcome, everybody, to the big show. Today, we talk to an expert from Hireology on best practices for hiring, and some of the stats are pretty crazy.
Frightening? No, not frightening.
Informative.
Just, yeah, for sure, informative.
And then we unpack the pending UAW strike. That and much, much more coming up on Service Drive Revolution. How's it going, Christian?
Great. How are you doing today?
You want to get right to the news?
Kind of. I feel like it's a hot topic. Really, at the end of the day, the main thing in the news right now is the UAW strike. I was super interested, so I think that they're trying to work on the contract here, and dealers are starting to put contingency plans in for not being able to have the parts and everything like that. And I thought it was super interesting that President Biden weighed in and he gave his 2 cents on the...
He thinks that they're not sharing the profits?
Yeah, so I think that he was pro worker on that. And it's interesting. I mean, I do think that, the way that the dealerships have, well, not the dealerships, but the manufacturers also have been making more money, you could make a case that they have an opportunity to give back and do the right thing. So... But at the same time, what's going to happen if they go back and they do a contract and they pay everybody more money, give more benefits? What's going to happen to the car prices?
They're going to go down.
They're going to go exactly down. Yes. But I don't know. How do you think this affects the rest of the industry?
If I went to a dealership and I said, hey, here's the deal. My techs and my union all run at 100% efficient. We have a standard of the quality of work that we do. We are investing in training and recruiting techs. So anytime you need a new tech, we'll send you more techs. And we also are providing a great, pension plan for these guys. Like that seems to me like a fair deal. But most of the time the unions are protecting the underachievers and they're holding the dealerships hostage in a lot of senses. It's not an even exchange of values. Most of the time, I mean, there's a lot of guys that having a union shop diminishes the quality of work, the customer experience, and their ability to turn a profit. I mean, I don't know how many dealers would line up for a union that actually did the recruiting and training and had a standard of what they were willing to accept. Like if I want to get rid of a technician that's 40% efficient, I got to ride him up 3 times. I got to meet with the union. I got to do all this stuff. What if the union took an active role and they were looking at efficiency? They were looking at productivity, and there was a standard of, hey, yeah, we're a union, but we have a certain pride about what we do as a quality of work and as production. Unions rarely ever want to talk about production. They're saying, well, the production's on you. And it's like, yeah, but you're taking away all the tools I have. Like if we all want to have a good quality of life and we all want to make money, you can't keep taking away the production off the table and the quality and your commitment to it and just keep giving entitlement.
Right. Yeah, there's got to be a focus on the finished product.
And so in these negotiations, you don't hear the guy from the union, I forget his name. You don't hear him talking about, hey, we're going to partner with manufacturers and help you navigate this change to electric, No, they're saying, we want you to guarantee jobs. We want you to cut the work week. We want you to lose all these things in an environment where you have no way of telling what's going to happen in the next 10 years. We want to lock you into something that could be detrimental. But take it or leave it. We're going to walk out and...
Yeah, and that's the only card they have to play. That's really interesting. I do like the idea of them holding to be a part of my union, you have to be able to put out a certain level of quality. I love that idea.
Yeah, the thing that we always had it as a country was productivity. And so because of the expense, companies have taken jobs to Mexico, taken jobs to China, etc. We're trying to bring those jobs back. but we're bringing those jobs back in an environment where people are entitled and they're less likely to want to do those jobs. So you have to, you really have to, you kind of have to meet on both sides. Like, I think it's interesting, like when you watch the news, like especially the left-leaning news, how they talk about Amazon and how their employees are mistreated and this and that. And then, there's a Amazon warehouse that went up out. We drove by it when we went to my mom's. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, it was huge.
Huge in the country, right? What that has done for the economy there and jobs. And if you talk to people that I know in my family or that work there, they think it's the greatest thing ever, that all of that opportunity has come there. I don't think we tell that side of the story. They also do a good job of selling people on the idea that you can start off, at a low level job and then work your way up and become a manager. And there's a career path and that sort of thing. It seems like we're always telling the other side of the story. And we, as the media is conditioning everybody to be entitled, we have to remember that this country was built on productivity, hard work, ingenuity, working through hard times, being a team member, right? Working and looking at the bigger picture, like not just me, there has to be an even exchange of values for things to be healthy and to work. And I think people buy into the propaganda a little bit, and there's two sides to every story, and you want to try to understand both sides. And both sides have some pretty big flaws, in my opinion.
I agree. See, I told you that was enough stuff for the news.
Hey, before we get to our distinguished guest, the Irreplaceable Service Manager Live lecture series where I'm going through the book chapter by chapter.
In telling bonus stories
in context, kind of unpacking it.
Some of my favorite stuff is coming up.
Yeah. So Christian really wants me to get to the embezzlement arrests.
Bad boys, what you gonna do?
The next story we're going to tell is about me having dreadlocks.
I have yet to see this picture. I've seen you with long hair. I've never seen you with dreadlocks before.
Yeah, so I asked my mom when we were in the meeting to send me some pictures. She has she saved all the articles and newspaper clippings and everything, and has tons of pictures of me in bands.
She's got all that stuff my mom doesn't have my birth certificate. Like, it's so funny, the difference.
Yeah, my mom's got boxes of that stuff, which I should get at some point. But so we'll be showing that and talking about kind of the lessons there. The next chapter in the book that we're going to be covering is, why Chris Collins. And so I'm going to kind of tell you some stories of how we got to where we are and just how my thinking is different than other people and why I think that is. Like, what is it that has created that, where I think in a lot of situations I just see things different. And I think you're going to be really successful and be irreplaceable, you need to adapt some of that. You need to try to see both sides of the coin in a sense. So that's what's coming up. If you're not in the Irreplaceable Live membership site, the ones that we've done so far are in there in the vault for you, but get in. Would love to have you in there. We've had a couple hundred.
Yeah, it just keeps getting better.
Yeah, it's fun. So hope to see you there. Now, Christian lobbied for this guest pretty hard.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
Steve Johnson is a major account director at Hireology, advising auto and commercial truck and heavy equipment dealers and service organizations on how to effectively attract, hire, and manage the best talent. He's a pro at optimizing hiring processes and reducing turnover to maximize revenue. Two-time recipient of the President Club Award and Sales Council Chairman recognition for his outstanding performance and results. He's going to talk to us about hiring best practices in automotive. So let's go to Steve.
Hey, Steve, how are you doing today?
I am doing well, gentlemen. How about yourselves?
Oh, man, I tell you what, we have not a complaint in the world. Chris and I both, but I've been chatting with you for a little bit longer. I was super excited to have this discussion with you today, because I think that when we really get into this with the listeners and viewers, what they're going to see is that between what you're doing and what we're doing on the coaching side, we're kind of fighting the same battle, and it's funny how there's a lot of ways to get it right, and you've done a lot of things with data and with your work at Hireology and what you do. But the thing that I think is the best, we're going to talk today about recruiting and best practices and the things that are really working at the dealership level when you're trying to staff. And I think the thing that I would say that is the most important to a lot of our listeners and viewers is the conversation about how to find technicians. And I think that we're going to have you unpack the study that you did where you literally talked to hundreds of applicants on the dealer level, and you really started to kind of dig in and ask them what was important to them. Am I kind of catching that right in the grand scheme of things? That's what you were trying to learn, is like, if you understood what they're looking for, then you could actually market to them better to get dealerships to where they're doing the right things and fishing with the right bait, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary of what we're going for, because when we're working with dealerships across the country, they have their customer experience just so nailed down perfectly, right? And I think it's what we try to do is give our dealers some direction in how can we put that same level of focus and attention to experience for applicants that are coming in the door today. So we went to the market first, surveyed about 450 of automotive industry job seekers to really find, what are your expectations for applying to a dealership, what you're looking for in a new employer, and what keeps you around after you get in the door.
Oh, so you're focused on retention after the hire too.
I think that there's a lot to be said about first experiences, right? Your first impressions count. Those carry weight. We know about that in our customer experience, and it carries through with our experience or our technicians' experience. What is the feeling that they get moving through the application process? Are they treated with are they welcomed with the culture that you have in your dealership? So we ask these applicants a series of different questions to really find out, what are you looking for today?
Was there, what surprised you the most about the responses?
Yeah, and I would say the most surprising, I think there were two of them. One of them being that the average applicant today expects to be interviewed within 3 days of hitting apply.
61% of people expect to be interviewed within 3 days of application.
That's
crazy, right?
So fast, so fast. And the fact that 47% will ghost you if those expectations are met. So that's, almost half that you're losing from your talent pipeline just from a controllable that you can manage. I think that the other one that was interesting had to deal with first impressions, right? With building loyalty, kind of at the, if we're talking about retention, that 85% of automotive talent who had a positive onboarding experience reported being loyal to their employer, versus only around 40, or I think it was even lower than that, like 38% loyalty who had a negative experience. So those first impressions really, really count and carry some weight.
Yeah, I think that the one thing I would say, and I think you're overly kind when you said that a lot of dealerships have the customer process and the customer experience dialed in. That's not always what we see on this side, but everybody's working on it. But the thing that hit me was, I would say that it's really common on the dealership side right now, is that onboarding and the process is an afterthought. I've only in the last couple of years seen a couple of groups that we've worked with where I've got one group in Ohio that they do a really good job. It's a really planned out onboarding. There's actually the New Hire Wednesday is kind of like what they do every week when they bring new people in, and then they make a big deal out of it on social media. And then there's the first 2, 3, 4 weeks are scripted, and that's just starting to happen. But when I was first hired, I was literally I had a class that I took for 2 weeks, and then in the evening, I actually was going back to the dealership that I worked at. Like the training was in one building, and then the dealership I was going to work at was in another building. And I would do my class from 8 to 4, and then from 4:30 till 9, I was selling cars, having no idea what I was doing. That's what I kind of expected is probably closer to the average onboarding, but that's great. What, we're talking about response being really fast. The most successful dealerships, how fast are they getting to people when they apply for a job?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, and walking into, dealerships across the country, I mean, how often do you walk into a fixed ops director or service manager's office and there's a stack of resumes that are sitting on the desk, right? What we're seeing the most successful dealers do is their response time to applications that come in is 24 hours. That is the gold standard for if you want to compete to win the talent you want, 24 hours. Whether that be and the best way to really do that is just shoot a text message out, because I mean, if I look at my personal email right now, I mean, my work inbox is inbox 0 every day, but if I have my personal email, there's like 22,000 unread emails in there, So if we're trying to cut through the noise and really acquire the best talent that's out there, I mean, it takes 90 seconds for someone to look and read a text message versus the response time of an email, 90 minutes. So just sending that quick text out within that first 24 hours is crucial to begin the conversation and get to them faster.
Yeah, I remember reading a stat somewhere that people are 11 times more likely to respond to a text versus an email. So that all kind of makes sense with that too. The other thing that I really liked was diversity in ad placement. I thought that was an interesting response. So the best dealerships that are finding technicians and advisors, how many different places are they posting ads?
There's, I guess, a couple of components to unpack there about where you're posting ads. And I think the broader question is, where are you sourcing your talent from? Like, what is the most effective mix of talent sourcing? The 101 is you have to get out of the major job boards. That's just the 101 exercise. Be out on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and there's LinkedIn, Google Jobs, those kind of basic ones. You cover your bases there. And it's also for SEO, right? Have it on your career site on your dealership's webpage. Have them listed there to see what's available, right? And there's also, other sources of talent that I think are largely untapped. If we look at those successful dealers today, they would like to copy and paste their best employees, right? So, and who do other gearheads hang out with? Gearheads, right? If they all car guys hang out with car guys. So having an employee referral program not only gives you exposure to a lane of talent that you might otherwise not have been exposed to, but chances are they're also a better culture fit. If you got a great employee who's really a rock star for your service team, having one of their referrals come in is a good culture fit. And to kind of go another layer deeper on that is to think also physical and not just digital. In the days where, there's a lot of dealerships that are kind of growing their own talent with service technicians, they're out at community colleges with a table and a QR code there saying, hey, go ahead and fill out an application here. Just a quick little scan, and it's very effortless and seamless to collect those applications on the fly. We're also working with, QR codes on doors. Like if you go into, let's say you go into a Starbucks or you go into a big box store, right? If we're talking about hourly level employees, there's everywhere you go. There's a sign that says, hey, make $20 an hour, scan here, right? Go ahead and apply for this. So having that information in your dealership, maybe at your service door entrance, like, hey, we're hiring. Or, hey, if you know somebody that's looking for a job, or you know a technician looking for work, having it in the customer lounge, or even in the employee break room, just different physical locations where someone can quickly, while they're sitting on their phone anyway, do a quick scan and expose you to more talent that you otherwise might not have had.
I never thought about that, of using customers as a referral source. That's pretty interesting.
There's some that are doing that. Yeah. Yeah, there's some that are doing
Yeah,
that.
put a QR code in the waiting room is a really, really good idea. And then another thing I wanted to point out to you too is, from your statistics, I was shocked that there was that number 61 again. So correct me if I'm wrong, but 61% of all applicants accept the first job they're offered. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, right. And, and with speed is even more crucial than ever. It's like a game of hungry hippos out there. We're trying to get talent in the door. And the average automotive job seeker today will apply to about five or six jobs. About 59% of them will apply to about 5 or 6 dealers at a time. 38% will apply to over 11. This has actually come down from our survey we did last year. But last year, automotive applicants were applying to more than 16 jobs at a time, the majority of that. So what we're seeing is that people are becoming more selective about the culture that they want to work for and the dealership that they want to begin their career journey with, or transfer into a new career path.
Do those stats change, Steve, if somebody's relocating? Like we've seen it, since COVID, especially because we live here in California, a lot of people leaving the state, and technicians, especially technicians, really, because they can make the same amount of money in a market where houses cost half as much. The schools are better, just a better quality of life, and technicians are in such high demand. Have you seen a difference in the way people apply in the last couple of years because of people moving across the country, moving to, like, from here, people are moving to Texas, where you are, Nashville, Florida? Like, what was the stat you used to say about Florida? Like, somebody who moves there every 5 minutes?
To Florida every 92 seconds was at one point in time. It was a minute and a half.
And 1 out of 3 of them's from California.
Right. Yeah, and same here in Texas, right? It's the exodus out of California. But I think what it comes to the experience that you're referencing is, how do we capture talent? It is, transplanting between cities, right? What we're finding is that there's even more of a focus on the experience. I mean, have you gone onto your career site and tried to apply to a job on your phone? Right. I think that kind of a first test is where we're seeing that the online search has become more prevalent for those places, because they're not just kind of they're not going through the phone book and just calling up and saying, hey, can I get a job here? They're checking for, if each dealership they apply to, are they going to be a good culture fit for me? Am I going to have a good career path here? Is this going to be a good fit for me? So what we're seeing is a big uptick in making sure that your career page correctly displays the culture that you actually have there, and also speaks to the 3 things that are the most important to applicants these days, which is career growth, culture fit, and having a fulfilling work and fulfilling job.
So what about, because the thing that we've found and done and encouraged is actually like taking over that kind of move, in a sense of flying them out with their spouse, getting to know them, then helping them with relocation. So you might do a 90-day apartment for them while they get settled and learn the area. You might put them with a realtor. In a sense, a lot of the things that the NFL teams would do, right? Like when a player gets drafted, there's somebody on every NFL team that's like, hey, you want to live in this part of town, you don't want to live in this one. Here's where you want to shop for groceries. Just taking away all the basic things that you worry about. I moved a couple years ago from downtown LA to Hollywood, and like it's very disruptive. Like you don't know, you got to find a new dry cleaner, a new grocery store, all of that. And so when you're moving across country, you gain loyalty by taking away that and being the one that hosts them and drives them around and meets the spouse. The other thing that we do is when we offer the job, we will send the wife flowers and say, hey, welcome to the family. Because, you know, you've met her and driven her around. But I think a lot of times we leave that to chance. And if you look at how much gross a technician creates, you know, it can be, you know, it can be 250, 300,000 a year, depending on the tech. Those little things add up to, you know, to a lot of loyalty and getting them. If they're applying it I think a lot of times when they're moving there, you know, if you like, let's say you're moving to Austin and you're a BMW tech, there aren't 7 BMW dealerships there. There's 2. So, you know, that's even harder in a sense when there's only 2, right? You got to really stand out. So
I think that there's something with that intention and attention to detail. Like if you're caring about where someone shops for groceries, I think that that's sending the message that says, hey, welcome to the team. And we really care about your well-being. And then Steve, I don't know if this came up in your study or not, but do you know the difference between wallpaper and toilet paper?
Wallpaper and toilet paper.
Wallpaper and toilet paper.
Wallpaper and toilet paper. No, double click on that for me.
It frightens me that you don't know the difference between wallpaper and toilet paper. Continue on.
You got stung.
You got me there,
Steve. That's a Christian drive-by shooting.
Yeah.
There's this thing going around the internet about when's the last time you thought about the Roman Empire? Have you seen that?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
My fiance asked me that yesterday. She goes, when's the last time you thought about the Roman Empire? I literally thought I was stepping into a Christian joke. I was like, is Christian here? Like, that's the most weird, random question ever. You know, the other thing that we find, and maybe you have thoughts on this, but a lot of times when it comes to service, the manager, the stores that do the worst when it comes to hiring techs and good advisors are the ones that 100% delegate it to an HR department. Like the managers don't get involved and they're not a part of the process until too far down the road that they've already lost interest and they've gone somewhere else. And so we find that getting the manager involved very early, especially if it's recruiting technicians, is important. A lot of times the HR manager can't speak that lingo. They don't, it's hard for them to connect with the technician in the sense that most service managers were technicians or, they understand what it's about. And so delegating everything to an HR department and not being actively involved in the process slows everything down also in our experience.
Yeah. You know what? That actually brings up a really good point because it also depends on the size of your dealership, right? So let's say that, I have, 30 rooftops. I need to have someone centrally to just make sure that the speed KPIs that we had talked about of those, 24 hours of the first contact are met to then facilitate that introduction to your fixed ops team swiftly, right? On the flip side of it, for, smaller dealer groups, you're a single top up to like 5 or 6, you'll want to be involved. Like a lot of times our fixed ops directors are actively involved in reviewing and making sure that first contact is made. So I think it depends on the size of the organization and also the level of role you're looking for. So for your skilled technicians, of course, we'll have a service manager tagged onto that job who can be really actively involved. But if you're talking, lube techs, they might not necessarily have to be as hands-on with that, right? But I think the important thing that you mentioned is making sure that if it is delegated to an HR person, that they get someone involved as soon as possible within that 24, 48 hours. Or you have a daily habit set up in the morning. If I'm a service manager, there's curveballs coming at me all over the place. I walk in every day. It seems like everything's on fire. And if I separate just a 10-minute daily habit for myself to just real quickly pop in, review all the ones that I, kick the ones I don't want, review the ones that I do want, to have kind of an operating system that'll set me up longer term.
Yeah. Give it some energy and some focus, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't leave it to chance. It's great.
I would say that that's probably the one thing with the stores that we've had that hired a bunch of technicians is that they absolutely, everything that Steven just said, like 10 minutes does it, but like 20 is better, I think, depending on how desperate it is. But you will not hire techs if you don't put daily energy into it. It's got to be something you do every single day. And I think if that was a lesson that if anybody took anything out of this, that would be the first one, is that it doesn't accidentally happen. We're not at a point where technicians just kind of walk in the door randomly. You literally have to make it happen. Now, I do believe that once you get really good at spending time recruiting and talking to people, everything like that, then maybe a technician will walk in your door and be like, hey, I heard great things about the store, or I heard you're hiring, or my friend said this to me, or whatever. I think that's another thing that sometimes we'll miss, is when we interview somebody and not taking advantage of that that network that, techs hang out with techs and everything like that. And it's like, hey, do you know anybody else that might be interested that we could reach out to? Like, you can network with your applicants too. So
Yeah,
It
definitely.
would be interesting for us with our coaching clients to shop them, like send in a resume and just time how long it takes for them to get back and who it is that gets back to you. Yeah.
You know what? I would say that I am guilty of that.
oh, you've done it before?
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
are you pleasantly surprised or disappointed?
Sometimes I'm surprised, but in
A lot of cases, if it's someone that we are,
Disappointed?
a lot of the cases that we're pretty.
Love how nice Steve tries to be about everything. He's like, a lot of times, but I mean, they're trying hard.
Are you sure you're not from Iowa?
You got that Midwest nice.
You do. You're very nice.
I do have that Midwest nice, man. I couldn't shake it even moving down to Texas.
Well, where are you from originally?
Originally from Chicagoland.
Oh, that's where Christian's from. He's got that same nice Midwest thing.
Right, except for the drive-bys.
Yeah.
Well,
that
there's
part,
a lot of drive-bys in Chicago, believe it or not.
That's why I
that was
got out
actually
of there, man.
that was a second grade requirement for me, was to learn how to do drive-bys. Yeah. I got
Wasn't
an A.
wasn't the greatest.
I got
idea.
an A.
there we go.
That's awesome. So how can you help dealers? Steve, tell us how you interact.
They could contact us at our website, Hireology.com. And there's a request form on there that they can contact us. My email is sjohnson@Hireology, and they can contact me as well.
It's awesome. Well, thanks, Steve.
Thanks, brothers.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of Service Job Revolution. We're uploading new stuff every day, so make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show, call 8333-ASK-SDR and we'll answer your question on the show. That's 8333-ASK-SDR. For special deals on our books and training, head over to offers.chriscollinsinc.com. Now that's offers.chriscollinsinc.com. I'm Chris Collins, and I'll see you in the next video.